At my daughter's graduation dinner, my mom slid her a cheap pen. Then she handed my niece a diamond bracelet for getting into community college. My girl just stared at the box in her hands. I said nothing. Then I stood up, pulled out a folder, and said, "Congrats, sweetheart. Your first condo's paid off." My mom couldn't even fake a smile. What would you do if your mother handed your daughter a cheap pin at her graduation dinner, then gave your niece a diamond bracelet for getting into community college, at the same table, in front of everyone? My name is Colton Reese. I'm 49 years old. I own a small commercial HVAC company that I built from a single van and a toolbox 22 years ago. I'm not rich. I'm not poor. I'm the kind of comfortable that comes from decades of early mornings, late invoices, and the stubborn refusal to let a slow quarter turn into a bad year. I've been married to Bryn for 24 years. She teaches third grade at a public school 8 minutes from our house. Together, we raised a daughter named Sienna who just walked across a stage in a cap and gown and accepted a degree in biomedical science, magna cum laude, from a university that accepted her because she earned it, not because anyone made a phone call. This story is about what happened at her graduation dinner. But it's also about a pen, a bracelet, a folder, and the 22 years of silence that finally broke open at a table with candles and white tablecloths while my mother sat 6 feet away and watched it happen without understanding that she was the reason it happened. But like most stories about family, it's not really about the dinner. It's about everything that came before it. My mother's name is Loretta Reese. She's 73 years old. She's the kind of woman who remembers every birthday, sends cards with handwritten notes, and makes sure everyone at the table has enough food before she sits down herself. From the outside, she looks like the perfect grandmother. She bakes. She smiles. She asks about your day. She remembers your favorite flavor of cake. She sends recipes in family group chats. She does all the surface-level things that make a grandmother look like a grandmother. But underneath the surface, there's a ledger, an invisible, unspoken ledger that assigns worth to her grandchildren based on criteria I've never fully understood. Maybe it's because Holly lives closer. Maybe it's because Addison reminds Loretta of herself. Maybe it's because Sienna is quiet and quiet people are easy to overlook when you're not paying attention. I've stopped trying to understand the why. The what is enough. And the what is this. Loretta has spent 22 years giving Addison more and Sienna less, and she has never once acknowledged the gap. But Loretta has a system, a quiet, consistent, lifelong system, of deciding which grandchild matters more. And the grandchild she's chosen is not mine. My sister, Holly, is 2 years younger than me. She married Graham Bexley when she was 25. They have one daughter, Addison, who is 18. Addison is a fine kid. I don't have anything against her. None of this is about Addison. She didn't choose to be the favored grandchild any more than Sienna chose to be the overlooked one. Addison is a product of a system she probably doesn't even see. A system built by adults who decided, for reasons only they understand, that one grandchild's ordinary milestones deserved diamonds and another's extraordinary achievements deserved a pen. She's pleasant. She's social. She's the kind of teenager who takes nice photos and knows how to talk to adults because she's been the center of adult attention her entire life. She recently got accepted into community college. Not a 4-year university. Not a competitive program. Community college. An open enrollment institution that accepts essentially anyone who fills out the application. I say this not to diminish community college. It's a legitimate path and plenty of good people have walked it. I say it because of what happened at the dinner table, and because the disparity between what Addison accomplished and what Sienna accomplished matters to the story of the gifts they received. Sienna is 22. She spent 4 years at a university that rejected her the first time she applied. She didn't get in as a freshman. She went to community college first, the same level of school Addison is now entering, and transferred after 2 years with a 3.9 GPA that she built one assignment at a time while working a part-time job at the campus library. When she transferred into the biomedical science program, she was told the coursework would be twice as demanding. She said okay, and she meant it. She worked the entire time. Library job during the school year. Tutoring on weekends, $10 an hour, helping freshmen with chemistry and biology. Summer internships at a research lab that paid barely above minimum wage but gave her experience she couldn't get anywhere else. She paid for her own textbooks, used copies she found online, highlighted by strangers, with notes in the margins from students who came before her. She paid for her own gas. She drove a 2009 Honda Civic with 200,000 miles on it that she'd bought with her own savings at 19. She maintained it herself. Oil changes, tire rotations, brake pads. Because she'd watched YouTube tutorials until she could do it in a parking lot with a jack and a socket wrench. That's the kind of person my daughter is. She doesn't call AAA. She calls YouTube. And then she fixes it herself. She ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches when her budget was tight, and she never once called me and said, "Dad, I need money." Not once. Because Sienna was raised to work for what she has, and she did. Every credit hour. Every late night in the library. Every shift behind the desk checking out books for people who didn't know her name. She earned this degree the way people earn things when nobody hands them anything. Slowly, painfully, and with a kind of quiet pride that doesn't need applause to survive. She graduated magna cum laude. Top of her department. She received a departmental award for outstanding undergraduate research. Her thesis was on cellular regeneration in post-surgical tissue, a topic she chose because she'd watched Bryn's mother recover from a hip replacement and wanted to understand why some bodies heal faster than others. She turned a family moment into a scientific question and then spent a year answering it. That's Sienna. She doesn't just work hard. She works with purpose. Every hour she put into that degree was connected to something real, something human, something that mattered beyond the grade. A professor pulled me aside after the ceremony and said, "Your daughter is one of the hardest working students I've had in 20 years of teaching. You should be very proud." I was. I am. I will be until the day I stop breathing. The dinner was at a restaurant called Meridian, a nice place downtown with white tablecloths and a wine list, and the kind of lighting that makes everyone look slightly more important than they are. Bryn and I booked it 2 months in advance. We invited 12 people. Family. Close friends. The people who had watched Sienna grow from a quiet girl with a science fair poster to a woman with a degree and a future. It was supposed to be her night. I need you to remember that. It was supposed to be her night. Not Addison's. Not Holly's. Not Loretta's. Sienna's. A night to celebrate 6 years of work and sacrifice and the quiet, relentless discipline of a girl who never had anything handed to her and never complained about it. That's whose night it was. Remember that when I tell you what happened next. The table was set for 12. Me and Bryn. Sienna. My parents, Loretta and Warren. Holly and Graham. Addison. And 4 of Sienna's closest friends who had driven in from campus to celebrate with her. The restaurant had a semi-private corner that Bryn had reserved specifically so we'd have space and privacy. She'd called ahead twice to confirm the setup. She'd brought the congratulations sign from home and asked the staff to place it before we arrived. She'd coordinated with Sienna's friends about arrival times and parking and a surprise group photo she wanted to take before dessert. Bryn had poured herself into this evening the way she pours herself into everything. Thoroughly, lovingly, and with an attention to detail that makes the people around her feel like they're the only thing that matters. Candles. Flowers Bryn had arranged. A small sign on the table that said, "Congratulations, Sienna," in gold letters. Bryn had thought of everything. She always does. Sienna arrived late. Not because she's careless, but because she'd stayed after the ceremony to take photos with her department and her advisor. She walked into the restaurant still glowing. Still wearing the residue of a day she'd been working toward for 6 years. She was wearing a navy dress she'd bought with her tutoring money, $42 from a clearance rack, and she looked like she'd spent $1,000. She hugged everyone. She hugged Loretta and said, "Thanks for coming, Grandma." She meant it. She always means it, even when the person she's thanking doesn't deserve the warmth. Dinner was good. For about an hour. Conversations happened. Toasts were made. Bryn stood up and said something about Sienna that made the whole table cry. Something about watching your child become the person you always hoped she'd be and realizing she surpassed it. Warren, my father, raised his glass and said, "To Sienna, the first Reese with a degree in something I can't pronounce." Everyone laughed. Sienna laughed. It felt like family. It felt like it was supposed to. Dessert had just been cleared. The waiter was refilling coffee. The energy at the table was warm and settling. The way energy does at the end of a good meal when everyone is full and content and nobody is in a hurry to leave. And that's when Loretta reached under the table and pulled out 2 gift bags. 2. At Sienna's graduation dinner, my mother brought 2 gift bags. One was small, flat, and plain, A white paper bag with no tissue paper, no ribbon, no decoration. The other was larger, wrapped in silver tissue paper with a bow, and clearly held something with weight and care. She set both on the table. She slid the small, plain bag across to Sienna. She held the larger one and turned to Addison. Sienna opened her bag first. She reached inside and pulled out a small cardboard box. She opened it. Inside was a pen. A ballpoint pen. The kind you find in a cup next to a hotel lobby sign-in sheet. Plastic barrel. A logo on the clip from a local bank. The kind of pen they give away for free at job fairs and community events. A free pen. In a cardboard box. At a graduation dinner for a woman who just earned a degree in biomedical science magna cum laude. Sienna looked at the pen. She held it in both hands. She turned it over once, the way you do when you're trying to figure out if there's something else, a check inside the box, maybe, or a note underneath, or something that would explain why this was the gift your grandmother chose for the biggest achievement of your life. There was nothing else. Just the pen. She looked up. She said, "Thank you, Grandma." Her voice was even. Controlled. The voice of a person who has had 22 years of practice at receiving less and making it look like enough. Then Loretta turned to Addison. She presented the silver bag with both hands, like she was handing over a crown. "Addison, sweetheart, I am so proud of you. Getting into college is such a big deal. I wanted to get you something special." Addison opened the bag. She pulled out a velvet box. She opened it. Inside was a diamond tennis bracelet. Real diamonds. I know because I've bought jewelry before. I know what real looks like versus what plated looks like. This was real. Later I found out it cost just over $4,000. For $1,000. For getting into an open enrollment community college. An institution that accepts anyone with a pulse and a completed form. For $1,000 in diamonds for that. And a bank pin for magna cum laude. I want you to sit with that math for a moment. Because I sat with it at that table, and it's the kind of math that changes the way you see a person forever. Loretta beamed. She physically beamed. Her face opened up like a window letting in sunlight. She clasped her hands together. She said, "Oh, Addison, it looks beautiful on you." She took a photo. She asked Holly to take another photo. She was glowing with the specific radiance of a grandmother who is deeply, genuinely proud. And I sat there thinking, where was this glow 5 minutes ago? Where was this radiance when Sienna opened her box? Where was the photo, the clasped hands, the beam? There was none. Because Sienna got a pen. And a pen doesn't make Loretta glow. The table reacted the way tables react when someone opens a diamond bracelet. Gasps. Oohs. Applause. Addison held it up. It caught the candlelight. Loretta clasped it around her wrist. Holly beamed. Graham nodded like his daughter had just been knighted. And at the other end of the table, my daughter, the one who had actually graduated, the one whose name was on the congratulations sign, the one who had earned magna cum laude through 6 years of grinding and working and sacrificing, sat holding a free pin in a cardboard box, watching her cousin receive diamonds for filling out an application. The silence at our end of the table was thick enough to touch. Sienna's friends exchanged glances. The kind of glances that young people exchange when they're witnessing something deeply unfair happening to someone they love and don't know what to do about it. One of them, a girl named Rachel who had been Sienna's roommate for 3 years, reached under the table and squeezed Sienna's hand. Sienna squeezed back. She didn't look up. I watched Sienna's face. Not for the first time. I've been watching this face for 22 years. I know every expression it makes. I know the difference between her polite smile and her real one. I know what she looks like when she's trying not to cry. And at that moment, she wasn't trying not to cry. She was doing something worse. She was accepting it. The way she's been accepting it her whole life. Quietly. Without protest. Without the expectation that it would ever be different. Her hands tightened around the pen box. Not in anger. In resignation. The hands that had shelved library books for 4 years. The hands that had written lab reports at 2 a.m. The hands that had held a tutoring whiteboard for $10 an hour. Those hands tightened around a cardboard box that contained a pen that wasn't worth the cardboard it came in, and she said nothing. Because Sienna has never expected Loretta to see her. She stopped expecting that a long time ago. But I see her. I have always seen her. I didn't say anything right away. I sat there. I watched the bracelet get admired. I watched Holly take a photo of it on Addison's wrist. I watched Loretta glow with the satisfaction of a woman who had just made her favorite grandchild feel special and didn't care what the other one felt. I watched all of it. And I thought about the pen. Here's the thing about that pin. It wasn't a lazy gift. It was a deliberate one. Loretta went shopping for Addison's bracelet. She drove to a jeweler. She looked at options. She asked about carat weights and clasp types. She spent time. She spent thought. She spent $4,000. And then, for Sienna, she grabbed a pen. Maybe from the junk drawer. Maybe from the bank counter. Maybe from the bottom of her purse. It doesn't matter where she got it. What matters is the gap between the effort. The bracelet required intention. The pen required nothing. And that gap, that canyon between how much she cared about one gift and how little she cared about the other, was the message. Loretta didn't forget Sienna. She assessed her. She measured her. And she decided that a free pin was what Sienna was worth. And here's the part that makes my blood go cold every time I think about it. That $4,000 bracelet. Loretta didn't buy it with her own money. Not really. Loretta and Warren live on Warren's pension and Social Security. Their income covers groceries and utilities and not much else. For the last 7 years, I've been supplementing them. A few hundred here when the car needs work. 1,000 there when the property tax bill comes in. I covered the deductible when Warren had his stent put in 2 years ago. I replaced their water heater last winter. In total, over 7 years, I've given my parents somewhere around $40,000. Bryn and I talked about it every time, and every time we agreed. They're family. They need it. We can manage. We'll make it work. We ate out less. We postponed the kitchen renovation 3 times. We drove cars longer than we should have. We made those choices willingly, because the alternative was watching my parents struggle. I don't regret the money. I regret that the woman who received it used a portion of it to buy diamonds for one granddaughter while handing the other a pin that a bank gives away for free. Quietly. Without a spreadsheet. Without a ledger. Without ever throwing it in anyone's face or using it as leverage or mentioning it at a dinner table. Because I was raised, by the same woman who gave my daughter a pin, to believe that helping family is something you do silently. That generosity loses its value when it's spoken aloud. I believe that. I lived it. And my mother took that silence and used it as permission to mistreat my daughter without consequence. Just transfers and checks and a son's belief that you help your parents when they need it. And in the month of October, I'd sent Loretta $1,500 because she told me the furnace was acting up and she needed a repair. She didn't use all of it on the furnace. I know that now, because a $4,000 bracelet doesn't appear out of a pension check. That bracelet was subsidized by me. My money helped buy a diamond bracelet for my niece while my own daughter received a pin that a bank gives away for opening a checking account. I thought about all of this while the bracelet sparkled and the table applauded and my daughter held her pin box in her lap like it was something she needed to protect rather than something she'd been given. Then I reached under my chair, and I picked up the folder. The folder had been in my car since that morning. It had been in my safe for 3 months before that. Inside was a document I'd been working toward for over a year. See, 18 months ago, I started putting extra money into a separate savings account. Not a lot at first. A few hundred a month. Then more as business picked up. Then a lump sum when a large commercial contract closed. I didn't tell Bryn the full scope at first. She knew I was saving for something for Sienna's graduation, but she didn't know what. 6 months ago, I told her. She cried. She said, "Colton, are you serious?" I said yes. She said, "That girl deserves every square foot." I'd found a condo. A 1-bedroom in a clean, safe building 15 minutes from the hospital where Sienna had just been offered a research position starting in the fall. I negotiated the price. I paid cash. I put the deed in Sienna's name. The whole thing, purchase, closing costs, initial furnishing budget, was done. Paid. Finished. Sitting in a folder under my chair at a dinner table where my daughter had just been handed a pen. I wasn't planning to reveal it this way. I was going to give it to her at home. Privately. Just me, Bryn, and Sienna, in the living room, with a bottle of champagne and no audience. That was the plan. But plans change when your mother hands your daughter a free pin and your niece a diamond bracelet at the same table and expects the world to keep spinning like nothing happened. I looked at Bryn. She was already looking at me. She knew. Not because I told her what I was about to do. The original plan was to give the folder at home. But because Bryn knows me the way only someone who has shared a bed and a budget and a broken water heater at 3 a.m. for 24 years can know you. She saw the shift. She saw the moment I decided that this gift was not going to wait for the living room. It was going to happen here. Now. At this table. in front of the woman who gave my daughter a pen. Bryn gave me the smallest nod, imperceptible to anyone else. But I saw it, and it said, "Go." I stood up. The table noticed. People go quiet when someone stands at a dinner table with something in their hands. It's instinctive. The same way people go quiet when someone clinks a glass. Attention shifts. "Sienna," I said. My voice was calm. Not cold. Not angry. Just full. Full of 22 years of watching this girl work for everything she has and receive almost nothing from the people who were supposed to celebrate her. "I want to give you your graduation present." I set the folder on the table in front of her. It was a simple manila folder. Nothing fancy. No bow. No wrapping paper. Just a folder with a deed inside and a card on top and 22 years of love compressed into a stack of paper that weighed less than a pound but carried more than anything else in that room. She looked at it. She looked at me. "Open it," I said. She opened the folder. Inside was the deed. The property title. A photo of the condo, the living room with the big window, the kitchen with the new countertops, the bedroom with the view of the park, and a card Bryn and I had written together that said, "You worked for everything. This is ours to give. Your first home. Paid in full. We love you. Mom and Dad." Sienna read the card first. Then she looked at the deed. Then she looked at the photo. Then she looked at me. Her eyes filled. Not the way they filled when Loretta gave her the pen. That was a filling in, a shutting down, a retreat. This was the opposite. This was a filling up. A breaking open. The kind of tears that come when someone who has spent her whole life being overlooked is suddenly, completely, unmistakably seen. "Daddy," she whispered. She hadn't called me Daddy since she was 12. "Daddy, is this real?" "It's real, sweetheart. It's yours. Congratulations." She stood up. She came around the table. She put her arms around me, and she held on in the way that adult children hold their parents when the weight of everything, every late night, every sacrifice, every moment of quiet doubt about whether anyone noticed, is suddenly lifted and replaced with something solid, something permanent, something with a deed and a key and a window that faces a park. Bryn was crying. Not the quiet kind. The kind where your shoulders shake and you don't care who sees because the moment is bigger than your composure. Sienna's friends were crying. For girls who had studied with her, struggled with her, celebrated with her, and who understood, in the way that friends understand, exactly how much this girl had earned this moment. Warren had his hand over his eyes and his shoulders were shaking. The waiter had stepped back against the wall and was pretending to check his phone, but was clearly watching and clearly moved. The restaurant was probably wondering why an entire corner of the room had dissolved. Warren had his hand over his eyes and his shoulders were shaking. The restaurant was probably wondering why an entire corner of the room had dissolved. And Loretta? Loretta couldn't smile. I watched her. I watched her try. I watched the muscles around her mouth attempt to form the shape of happiness and fail. Because smiling would mean celebrating Sienna. And Loretta has never genuinely celebrated Sienna. Smiling would mean acknowledging that the girl she gave a pen to had just received a home from the parents who actually saw her. Smiling would mean standing in the light that the folder cast on the table and seeing her own shadow in it. The shape of a grandmother who chose diamonds for one grandchild and a pin for the other, not because she forgot, but because she decided. She couldn't smile because the condo wasn't just a gift. It was a mirror, and Loretta didn't like what she saw. Holly's face was something else entirely. She looked at the deed. She looked at the condo photo. She looked at the bracelet on Addison's wrist. And for the first time, the bracelet looked small. Not physically, contextually. A $4,000 bracelet sitting next to a paid-off condo is not a bracelet anymore. It's a reminder that someone outgave you so completely that the comparison is no longer about money. It's about meaning. Graham shifted in his chair. Addison looked at her bracelet and then at the folder and did the quiet math that even an 18-year-old can do. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Her face said it. "Oh. The bracelet is not the biggest gift at this table." I didn't make a speech about Loretta. I didn't call her out. I didn't mention the pen. I didn't say a single word about what she had done. I didn't need to. The folder said everything. The deed said everything. The gap between a pen and a condo said everything. And for the first time in 22 years, I didn't have to explain to anyone what Loretta's favoritism looked like. It was sitting on the table in velvet and cardboard, side by side, for everyone to see. The drive home was quiet in the best way. Sienna sat in the back seat holding the folder against her chest like it was alive. Bryn had her hand on my knee. The highway was dark. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional sniffle from the back seat that Sienna was trying and failing to hide. Dad, yeah. How long have you been planning this? About 18 months. 18 months. Since the day you got into the biomedical program. I decided that day. She was quiet for a while. Then, you didn't have to do this. Yeah, I did. The pen didn't bother me, Dad. I'm used to it. I know. That's why I had to do it. Because you shouldn't be used to it. No one should be used to being given less by someone who's supposed to love them equally. She was quiet again. Then, very softly, I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. Every square foot. Loretta called the next morning. She didn't mention the pen. She didn't mention the condo. She said, that was a lovely dinner. A lovely dinner. Like the evening had been a pleasant, uncomplicated gathering, and not the moment her favoritism was exposed to everyone at the table without a single word being spoken about it. She was rewriting it already, smoothing the edges, pretending the folder hadn't happened, pretending the pen was a perfectly adequate gift for a magna cum laude graduate, pretending the diamond bracelet for a community college acceptance was proportional and fair. I didn't argue. I said, thanks, Mom. Sienna had a great night. Loretta paused. The pause of a woman who heard something in her son's voice that she couldn't quite name. That condo was very generous. Colton. She earned it. Another pause. You didn't have to do that at the dinner. You're right. I was going to do it at home. But then you gave her a pen, Mom. A pen. At her graduation dinner. While you gave Addison $4,000 in diamonds for filling out an application. And I decided that if you were going to make your statement at that table, I was going to make mine. Silence. A long, thick silence. The kind of silence that happens when someone hears the truth in a tone so calm it can't be dismissed as an overreaction. I treat my grandchildren equally, Colton. No, Mom. You don't. You never have. And for 22 years, I've said nothing about it because I kept hoping you'd figure it out on your own. You didn't. So the condo did the talking for me. She hung up. She didn't call back for 12 days. 12 days of silence from a woman who usually calls twice a week. I didn't chase her. I didn't soften it. I didn't send a follow-up text saying, I didn't mean it like that. I meant it exactly like that. Every word, every pause, every syllable of truth that had been living in my chest for 22 years finally exhaled. Holly called that afternoon. She was sharper than Loretta. More direct. That was a power move, Colton. You embarrassed Mom. Mom embarrassed herself, Holly. She gave a pen to a magna cum laude graduate and diamonds to an open enrollment acceptance. I didn't create that contrast. She did. I just added a third data point. Holly was quiet. It wasn't about the pen. It's always been about the pen, Holly. The pen. The $25 gift cards. The missed events. The decades of Addison getting more and Sienna getting less. The pen was just the night you all had to see it happen in real time. She didn't have a response. She said she'd call me later. She hasn't. Warren called me separately. My father. The quiet one. The man who raised his glass at dinner and toasted Sienna with genuine pride before his wife turned the night into a case study in favoritism. Warren said, I saw what your mother did. I should have said something. I didn't. I'm sorry. Thanks, Dad. That condo. That was the right thing, Colton. That girl works harder than anyone I know. She gets it from you. I almost broke. The word you in she gets it from you hit me somewhere I wasn't prepared for, somewhere behind the ribs, in the place where fathers keep the things they're most afraid of, the fear that they're not doing enough, the hope that their children see them trying, the quiet prayer that the sacrifices add up to something their kids can feel even if they never fully see. Warren's words reached that place. I held it together because you don't break on the phone with your father. You save it for after. I broke in the shower that night. Bryn heard me through the door. She didn't come in. She just pressed her hand against it. Some things don't need words. They just need a hand on a door. Sienna moved into the condo 3 weeks later. Bryn and I helped. We spent a Saturday assembling furniture and hanging shelves and arguing about where the couch should go. Sienna put a photo on the kitchen counter. The three of us at the graduation ceremony, still in regalia, squinting into the sun. She put the pen on her desk. She uses it. She actually uses it. Every day. It sits in a cup on her desk next to her computer and her textbooks and a photo of me and Bryn from our wedding day that she's had in every room she's lived in since she was 14. She signs documents with it. She takes notes with it. She writes grocery lists with it. She has turned a thoughtless gift into a tool and a careless gesture into a daily practice. She signs things with it. She takes notes with it. When I asked her why, she said, "Because it's still a pen, Dad. It still writes. Just because it wasn't given with love doesn't mean I can't use it with love." That's my daughter. That's who Loretta gave a pen to. A girl who takes a cheap, thoughtless gift and finds a way to make it meaningful. A girl who works for everything, expects nothing, and treats the people who undervalue her with more grace than they deserve. A girl who graduated magna cum laude and uses a bank pen to sign her first lease, a lease she doesn't need, because her father bought her the whole building. Well, not the building. The condo. 1 bedroom, big window, view of the park, paid in full, deed in her name. Earned by a man who crawls under buildings to fix ductwork and a woman who teaches 8-year-olds to read. We're not wealthy people. We're people who decided, 18 months ago, that our daughter's future was worth more than a new kitchen or a vacation or any of the things we could have spent that money on instead. We chose Sienna. We will always choose Sienna. Earned by a man who runs an HVAC company and a woman who teaches 3rd grade. Given to a daughter who never asked for anything and deserved everything. I didn't give Sienna the condo to make Loretta feel bad. I gave it because Sienna spent 6 years building something real and nobody in my family, except Bryn and me and Warren, seemed to notice. The condo was never about the pen. The condo was about the girl. The pen just decided the timing. And maybe, in a strange way, I should thank Loretta for that. Because if she'd given Sienna a normal gift, a necklace, a watch, even a thoughtful card with a check inside, I would have given the folder at home. Privately, quietly, the way I do everything for the people I love. But Loretta didn't give Sienna a normal gift. She gave her a message. And the message was, "You are worth less." So I gave Sienna a different message. In front of everyone. And the message was, "You are worth everything." Loretta will probably never admit what she did. She'll rewrite the evening in her memory. She'll tell herself the pen was a joke, or a placeholder, or that she just didn't have time to shop. She'll tell Holly it was blown out of proportion. She'll frame herself as the victim of an ungrateful son. And the bracelet on Addison's wrist will keep catching the light. And Loretta will keep pretending the light doesn't reveal anything about the shadow it casts. That's fine. I'm not waiting for Loretta to change anymore. I changed the outcome instead. My mother gave my daughter a pen. I gave her a home. One of us was making a statement about what Sienna was worth. We both were. The difference is, mine came with a deed. She gave her a pen. I gave her a home. And the girl who deserved everything used both, because that's who she is.